When the World Fell Silent is set in the city where I live right now and in the region where I was brought up. So Atlantic Canada is, we're very, it's like a little family of its own. And so when I was looking at moving to historical fiction, it just made sense for me to set something here. I loved the idea of being able to bring something in Canadian history to a wider audience. And the Halifax explosion was something that most people have not heard of, but it was the largest man-made explosion before the atom bomb in World War II. And, it killed almost 2,000 people, um, and wounded, I think, around 9,000 more. And we're a fairly small city. So, um, yeah, it was just one of those things where I thought I can really use this as a backdrop and build something really great around it. Her name is Nora Kroll. Her character kind of came to me fully formed in that she was someone who was not necessarily interested in the traditional roles, or at least not right away. She wanted to do things. And, in 1917, options are pretty limited for women as to how they can train, what jobs they can take on. So for her, being a nurse made perfect sense. She enjoys it. She feels like she's doing something important. Sometimes she wonders if she's perhaps not doing enough, not being a battlefield nurse, but being on the home front, because she works at a brand new hospital that's for soldiers coming home that aren't quite ready to be discharged, but were well enough to be sent home. And she's really an independent soul. And, she really loves her job. Like there's one point where she, and let's be clear, in World War I, nurses all of a sudden got to do tasks that they had never been allowed to do before. So she's put in this situation and she starts doing more clinical things. She just realizes that she's actually really good at her job and she really loves it. And I love that part of her. And I think that's both of the characters in this book have parts of me in it. And that that urge to be beneficial and proficient at something, like that's me. That's one side of me. So Charlotte Campbell was a late addition to this book because I actually made a few false starts and I ended up adding her storyline in what became the final version. And Charlotte was a little different. She's very much a nurturer. She has a little baby, Aileen, and she's a war widow. She loves her daughter, her family. Like this is her reason for existing. And I think there's an overall theme in the book about family and what family means and what family actually is. And I think when we see Charlotte and Nora finally meet, um, those two things end up butting up against each other, even though they both believe that family is everything. And I don't want to give too many spoilers. But they do, even though they're very different people, they do have this sense that family is everything. And I mean, that's why it was called the Ship of Dreams, right? And there's a line in the book when people are on the Carpathia that says, the Titanic was Ship of Dreams, but the Carpathia is called the Ship of Widows. And how tough that is. And I don't want to give spoilers as to, who perishes and who doesn't. But it is difficult when you start thinking about body count and it's people that you've invested in. And the reality is people lost people. And so I knew ahead of time who was going to make it and who wasn't, which was a little different than in When the World Fell Silent, because there were some things I didn't know until I got to that part, and then I had to make a decision. But I really didn't know. But in this book, I knew ahead of time who was going to make it and who wasn't. And it is difficult, and I cried writing this book. And then I got my revisions from my editor who, she said she cried. And then I cried again when I did my revisions. Um, but I think too, in both stories, I think even though these are big tragedies with a lot of loss, I try to approach things in a way that there's still hope. Like I don't want people to come in and think, oh, it's just going to be all death and tragedy and it's over. There's so much resilience and opportunities for healing that I like to explore that a lot.